Ethan was a boy born into a world that offered little but demanded much. His small, weathered home sat on the edge of a bustling neighborhood where cracked sidewalks and faded storefronts told stories of struggle and endurance. The air was thick with the scent of dust and hope intertwined, a reminder that life moved forward even when it seemed to stall. From a young age, Ethan had been drawn to the mysteries of the human body. While other children played in the streets, he could often be found at the small clinic run by an aging nurse who took pity on the neighborhood's many ailments. There, Ethan watched intently as bandages were wrapped and medicines dispensed, soaking up every word, every gesture, every small miracle of healing. His natural curiosity soon became a quiet obsession. Books, often donated or borrowed, became his treasure. He studied anatomy diagrams and herbal remedies, memorized symptoms and treatments, all with a fierce determination to understand how to ease pain and save lives. Despite the scarcity of resources, old textbooks, limited medical supplies, and few mentors, Ethan refused to be deterred. Every day, he practiced what he learned. If a neighbor's child scraped a knee, Ethan was there with a clean cloth and soothing words. When elderly Mrs. Jenkins complained of a persistent cough, he listened carefully and suggested herbal teas, hoping to ease her discomfort. His small acts of care earned him quiet respect within the community, even if some viewed his ambitions as naive or unrealistic. But beneath his growing confidence lurked a deep self-doubt. Ethan was painfully aware of the gap between his dreams and his reality. He knew he lacked formal training, the financial means to attend a proper medical school, and the connections that seemed to open doors for others. His environment was unforgiving, filled with obstacles that whispered that his aspirations might be beyond reach. Still, Ethan held on to a fragile hope, fueled by every healed wound and every grateful smile. He believed that his purpose was to serve, to bring comfort where there was suffering, even if on a small scale. His passion was a light in the shadows of hardship, a promise to himself and those around him that better days were possible. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the neighborhood settled into quiet, a conversation caught Ethan's attention. Neighbors gathered around a flickering television, speaking in hushed tones about Victor Stanton, a billionaire whose name was known far beyond the city limits. Rumors swirled about Stanton's mysterious illness, a condition so rare and complex that even the best doctors struggled to diagnose it. For many, Victor Stanton was a distant figure, a symbol of wealth and power far removed from their daily lives. But for Ethan, the news ignited something deeper. Here was a challenge that seemed impossible, a man whose sickness was a puzzle wrapped in secrecy. It was a call to action, a beacon that pulled at Ethan's heart and mind. He imagined what it would mean to help someone like Stanton, to use his knowledge and passion on a stage far larger than his neighborhood clinic. The thought stirred both excitement and fear. Could he rise to the occasion? Did he have the skill, the courage, the resilience? That night, Ethan lay awake beneath a threadbare blanket, his mind racing with possibilities. The path ahead was uncertain and steep, but the spark of ambition burned brighter than ever. He vowed silently that he would find a way to prove himself, to heal, and to change the course of his life. Victor Stanton's illness was more than a headline, it was the first step in Ethan's journey from the margins to the heart of a world that had long seemed beyond his grasp. Ethan stood just beyond the polished marble floor of Victor's grand office, heart pounding, palms clammy. The billionaire's presence was overwhelming, a towering figure seated behind an enormous desk, exuding power and disdain. Ethan's words had barely left his mouth when Victor's laughter erupted, a cold, mocking sound that filled the room and echoed off the walls. "You actually think you can cure me?" Victor sneered, eyes glittering with amusement and scorn. "You're nothing but a small-time quack, Ethan. This isn't some simple cold you can fix with a few pills. Victor leaned forward, fingers steepled as he challenged Ethan openly. Put your money where your mouth is. Cure me. Or admit you're a fraud. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Ethan felt every eye on him, some filled with skepticism, others with outright disbelief. The humiliation was public and complete. Victor's smirk was a razor, slicing through Ethan's confidence. But beneath the sting of mockery, something else stirred, an ember of fierce determination. Inside, Ethan's mind churned. Doubt crept in alongside the fire. Could he really do it? Cure a man like Victor, whose illness had confounded the best doctors and specialists? The odds were stacked impossibly high, and yet, backing down wasn't an option. The challenge had ignited something deep within him, a drive to prove not just Victor wrong, but to prove himself right. Ethan weighed the risks, the potential for failure, the damage to his reputation, the skepticism he'd face from the medical community. But the alternative, giving in to defeat, retreating into obscurity, felt far worse. He straightened his shoulders, meeting Victor's gaze with a quiet intensity. The chapter traced this internal struggle, the collision of fear, pride, hope, and resolve, culminating in Ethan's decision to accept the challenge. Despite the humiliation and the towering obstacles, he would pursue the cure. Not just for Victor, but for himself. Ethan plunged headfirst into his research with an intensity that consumed every waking moment. His days were long and grueling, filled with endless hours in the lab, poring over data, conducting experiments, and re-examining every detail. The path he had chosen was anything but straightforward. Failure greeted him at nearly every turn, and with each setback, the weight of doubt threatened to crush his resolve. Test after test produced inconclusive or disappointing results, and yet, he refused to relent. Around him, skepticism was thick in the air. Colleagues and acquaintances who had once expressed cautious optimism began to distance themselves. They whispered doubts about the feasibility of his ideas, questioning whether his theories were grounded in reality or mere fantasy. Some saw his relentless pursuit as obsession, a reckless gamble that would lead only to disappointment. Financial backers hesitated, concerned about the mounting costs with no clear payoff. Family and friends, though supportive on the surface, could not hide their worry over the toll the endeavor was taking on Ethan's health and well-being. The strain was undeniable. Money grew tight as funds drained rapidly to cover equipment, lab space, and materials. At home, Ethan's relationships frayed under the pressure. Late nights spent wrestling with formulas and failed experiments left him exhausted and emotionally drained. There were moments when the isolation felt unbearable, when the quiet hum of machines and the glow of monitors became his only companions. Yet, beneath the surface of fatigue and frustration, a stubborn hope burned fiercely. Ethan's conviction was not born merely from ambition, it was fueled by the promise of vindication. The stakes were deeply personal. He sought not just scientific breakthrough but redemption, proof that his work mattered, that the years of sacrifice and struggle were not in vain. Every setback was met with renewed determination. He reminded himself of what was possible, of the glimpses of progress glimpsed in fleeting moments during his experiments. Those small sparks of success, no matter how brief or subtle, became the fuel that kept him moving forward. In the background of this relentless pursuit was Victor, a figure both distant and intimately connected to Ethan's mission. Victor observed from the sidelines, his skepticism apparent. He had witnessed the long history of attempts, the promises made and broken, and the shadows of doubt loomed large in his mind. To him, the idea of healing seemed like a fragile hope, one that had repeatedly slipped through his fingers. Yet, as Ethan's work persisted, a subtle shift began within Victor. The flicker of doubt, once confined to skepticism, started to expand into something more complex. The possibility that healing might be attainable, that the pain and limitations that had defined his condition could one day be overcome, crept into his thoughts. This change was gradual, almost imperceptible, but it altered the dynamic between the two men. Victor's guarded demeanor softened in private moments. He found himself questioning his long-held assumptions and the finality he had accepted. The possibility of recovery, once dismissed as wishful thinking, now carried a tentative allure. He observed Ethan's unwavering commitment and began to wonder whether the pursuit was worth more than just the effort of one man. Perhaps, it was a journey that could reshape their futures. Meanwhile, Ethan's experiments evolved. He refined techniques, revisited failed hypotheses with fresh eyes, and incorporated new findings that reinvigorated his approach. The laboratory became a crucible of innovation and resilience, a place where failure was not defeat but a stepping stone toward discovery. Despite mounting setbacks, the horizon of possibility expanded incrementally. The emotional landscape was equally turbulent. Ethan grappled with self-doubt, the relentless questioning of his own abilities and the validity of his vision. Yet, each moment of uncertainty was met with a resolve to persevere, a refusal to surrender to despair. His belief in the transformative potential of his work became a beacon, guiding him through the darkest hours. Victor's internal conflict mirrored this complexity. His skepticism clashed with emerging hope, creating a tension that forced him to confront fears and vulnerabilities long buried. The man who had once dismissed healing as fantasy now wrestled with a fragile optimism that challenged his worldview. This internal battle reshaped his interactions with Ethan, infusing their relationship with new dimensions of understanding and cautious anticipation. Financial pressures, once overwhelming, sparked creative problem-solving. Ethan sought alternative funding sources, appealed to unlikely allies, and leveraged small victories to secure incremental support. The struggle to sustain the work added urgency but also fostered resilience. Each dollar raised, each resource acquired, became a testament to the belief that progress was possible. Social isolation weighed heavily on Ethan, yet he found unexpected strength in moments of connection. Support came in unexpected forms: a note of encouragement from a distant mentor, a brief message of solidarity from a former skeptic turned believer. These fragments of affirmation provided the emotional sustenance needed to continue pushing forward. Throughout this relentless pursuit, the boundary between science and hope blurred. Ethan embodied both the scientist and the dreamer, navigating the fine line where data met faith in possibility. His journey was not simply about experimentation, it was about confronting limitations, redefining boundaries, and challenging the very nature of what was deemed achievable. Victor's evolving perspective added depth to this narrative. His transformation from detached observer to tentative participant underscored the profound impact of hope on the human spirit. The prospect of healing transcended physical restoration. It became a symbol of renewal, resilience, and the enduring power of belief. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Ethan's work gained momentum. Failures remained, but so did breakthroughs, small but significant steps forward. Each experiment brought new insights, revealing complexities that demanded deeper understanding but also unveiled pathways previously unseen. The cumulative effect was a growing sense of possibility that transcended individual obstacles. Victor's engagement deepened accordingly. Conversations between the two men shifted from guarded to candid. Discussions about prognosis and treatment gave way to explorations of potential, strategies, and shared hopes. The tension between skepticism and hope created a dynamic that propelled the pursuit forward, intertwining their destinies in unexpected ways. Amid the mounting challenges, the promise of vindication remained the central force driving Ethan. The dream of transforming not only his life but also the lives of others sustained him. The relentless pursuit was a testament to human endurance, a story of perseverance against overwhelming odds. In this crucible of doubt and determination, both Ethan and Victor were changed. The journey tested their limits, expanded their horizons, and redefined their understanding of possibility. What began as a solitary quest evolved into a shared mission, where hope, science, and human resilience converged. The relentless pursuit continued, fueled by a fragile yet unyielding belief that healing was not just a distant dream but an attainable reality. Every failure was a lesson, every moment of doubt a challenge to overcome. The path was arduous and uncertain, but the promise of redemption and the hope of a new beginning drove them forward, unwavering. Ethan had been tirelessly working on a medical breakthrough that promised hope where there had previously been none. For months, his research had progressed quietly in the lab, often in isolation, driven by a singular goal: to find a cure for Victor's debilitating condition. Every experiment, every late night, had been fueled by the belief that this discovery could change not only Victor's life but the lives of countless others suffering from similar ailments. Finally, the moment arrived. Ethan identified a compound that showed remarkable efficacy in reversing the damage caused by the disease. The results were clear and replaceable, something rare and precious in the world of medical research. With mounting excitement, he prepared to present his findings to the medical board and secure the necessary funding for clinical trials. This breakthrough was more than science, it was a lifeline for Victor and a testament to Ethan's dedication. However, beneath the surface of this success lurked an unseen danger. Ethan's circle included a trusted ally, someone he had relied on not only for support but for collaboration. This person had been privy to confidential information about the discovery, privy to details meant for a select few. Ethan had believed in the integrity of this partnership, assuming that their mutual commitment to the cause would safeguard the breakthrough. But trust, as Ethan soon learned, can be fragile. Just as he was about to reveal his findings to the world, word leaked. Vital information about the compound and the potential cure found its way into the hands of Victor's rivals, competitors with vested interests in maintaining the status quo or capitalizing on the breakthrough for their own gain. The leak was a calculated blow, designed to undermine Ethan's work and cast doubt on its originality and credibility. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Rumors swirled in the medical community, questions arose about the source of the research, and whispers of intellectual theft began to circulate. Ethan's reputation, carefully built over years of hard work, was suddenly in jeopardy. The very discovery that was meant to be his triumph became the center of suspicion and controversy. Ethan grappled with a profound sense of betrayal. The shock was not only about the leak itself but the source, someone he had considered an ally, a partner in this arduous journey. The realization that ambition and personal agendas could override loyalty was a harsh awakening. He confronted the painful truth that, in the high-stakes world of medical innovation, trust is often a luxury, and betrayal a looming threat. This turning point forced Ethan to re-evaluate not only his professional relationships but also the nature of ambition itself. The drive to succeed, to make a mark in the field, could inspire greatness but also breed treachery. The stakes were no longer abstract, they were deeply personal. The consequences of the betrayal extended beyond professional setbacks, threatening Victor's chances of recovery and the future of the cure. Despite the setback, Ethan refused to give in to despair. The breach galvanized him to tighten his circle, to be more vigilant about whom he confided in. He doubled down on his research, determined to validate his findings independently and protect the integrity of his work. The betrayal became a catalyst for resilience rather than defeat. Yet, the emotional toll was undeniable. Ethan wrestled with feelings of anger, disappointment, and isolation. The rupture in trust left scars that would take time to heal. At the same time, it deepened his understanding of the complex interplay between ambition and ethics, success and sacrifice. He realized that breakthroughs often come at a price and that the path to progress is fraught with challenges that extend beyond the laboratory. Meanwhile, the broader implications of the betrayal began to surface. The rivals who had obtained the leaked information used it to position themselves advantageously, sparking competitive maneuvers that threatened to stall or hijack the development of the cure. The medical community was caught in a whirlwind of conflicting claims and contested discoveries, creating confusion that could delay much-needed treatment. Ethan found himself navigating a precarious landscape, balancing the urgency of his mission with the necessity of safeguarding his work against further exploitation. Allies emerged, offering support and legal counsel, but the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with complexity. In this crucible of crisis, Ethan's character was tested. His commitment to Victor and the greater good remained unwavering, even as personal ambitions and professional rivalries threatened to consume him. The chapter highlighted the intricate dynamics of trust and betrayal, underscoring how the pursuit of innovation often intersects with human frailty. Ultimately, the breakthrough and the betrayal were intertwined threads in Ethan's journey, moments that defined both his resilience and his vulnerabilities. They illuminated the delicate balance between hope and caution, progress and protection, collaboration and competition. Through this experience, Ethan gained a deeper insight into the world he inhabited. He understood that trust must be earned and guarded, that ambition must be tempered by integrity, and that the true cost of innovation often lies in navigating the shadows as much as in celebrating the light. This chapter laid bare the complexities that underpinned Ethan's quest for a cure. It revealed how breakthroughs are never solitary triumphs but are shaped by relationships, ethics, and the unpredictable forces of human nature. The betrayal, painful as it was, became a pivotal moment, one that challenged Ethan to grow, adapt, and ultimately persevere in the face of adversity. Ethan's world had shifted beneath his feet, leaving him to navigate a landscape littered with doubt and disappointment. The betrayal, sharp and unexpected, echoed in every corner of his life. It was as if a shadow had fallen over everything he once trusted, and with it came a cascade of setbacks that threatened to unravel his carefully built plans. At the heart of his struggles was the depletion of resources that had once seemed inexhaustible. Funding that had once flowed steadily now trickled to a halt, dried up by wary investors and hesitant partners. Projects that had shown promise stalled, burdened by delays and uncertainty. Each lost opportunity deepened the void, as Ethan found himself increasingly unable to marshal the support necessary to advance his vision. With every passing day, the weight of these losses chipped away at his confidence. The man who had once stood tall, resolute and ambitious, now wrestled with a creeping sense of inadequacy. Doubts, once fleeting shadows at the edges of his mind, began to dominate his thoughts. Was he truly capable? Had he misjudged those around him? The relentless questioning gnawed at his resolve, making every decision feel heavier, every step more precarious. Compounding his turmoil was the worsening health of the billionaire who had been both a patron and a symbol of hope. The man's condition deteriorated rapidly, a stark reminder of time's cruel passage. Where there had once been assurances of continued support, now there was only uncertainty. The ticking clock was a constant presence, pressing down with increasing urgency. Ethan's isolation grew in tandem with his troubles. Friends and allies who had once stood by him began to distance themselves, wary of being caught in the fallout. Some quietly withdrew their support, others vanished altogether, leaving Ethan to face the mounting challenges largely alone. The social fabric that had once surrounded him unraveled, thread by thread, until he was left isolated amid the ruins of his ambitions. This solitude deepened the darkness he grappled with. The days became long and heavy, each one marked by a gnawing sense of loss, not just of opportunities or alliances, but of purpose. The fight that had fueled him began to fade, replaced by a profound despair that threatened to consume him. He questioned the meaning of it all, struggling to find a reason to continue when the future looked so bleak. Yet, beneath the weight of despair, there flickered a faint glimmer of something else, a stubborn ember of resilience. Though battered and worn, Ethan's spirit was not yet extinguished. In moments of quiet reflection, he searched for fragments of meaning amid the chaos, grasping at whatever insight might help him navigate the darkness. He confronted the harsh reality of his situation without illusion. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with obstacles, but retreat was no longer an option. In this crucible of hardship, Ethan began to confront not just external challenges, but the deeper questions of identity and purpose. Who was he if stripped of his successes? What remained when the illusions of control fell away? These reflections were painful but necessary. They forced him to re-evaluate his motivations and goals, to distinguish between what truly mattered and what was merely a pursuit of ego or approval. Through this process, a tentative clarity emerged. The fight was no longer just about external achievements but about reclaiming a sense of self and meaning amid the falling shadows. Even as his world contracted, Ethan sought small anchors to steady himself. Moments of solitude became spaces for introspection, and brief connections with those few who remained offered glimpses of hope. Though the circle of support had narrowed, the quality of these relationships deepened, providing a fragile lifeline. The billionaire's decline served as both a reminder of urgency and a catalyst for change. Time was slipping away, but so too was the possibility of renewal. Ethan recognized that clinging to past strategies and alliances would not serve him now. Adaptation, humility, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths were necessary if he hoped to emerge from this period of darkness. In this chapter of his life, Ethan was stripped bare, his ambitions, his pride, and even his identity challenged by the relentless forces arrayed against him. Yet within this crucible, there was potential for transformation. The shadows that fell were not merely signs of defeat but also markers of a profound journey inward. Ethan's struggle was not just with external circumstances but with himself. The confrontation with failure and abandonment forced him to wrestle with fears and vulnerabilities long suppressed. It demanded courage not only to endure but to seek new paths forward, even when the destination was unclear. Though the road was daunting, and the night seemed unending, Ethan's story in these falling shadows was also one of quiet perseverance. It was a testament to the complexity of human resilience, the ability to find light amid darkness, to hold on to fragments of hope when everything else seems lost. As the chapter closed, Ethan remained a figure caught between despair and the faint possibility of redemption. His journey through the fallout was far from over, but within the depths of his darkest moments, the seeds of a new beginning quietly took root. Ethan stands at a crossroads, weighed down by the failures and setbacks that have marked his recent efforts. Yet, despite the mounting challenges, he refuses to surrender. His resilience is fueled not merely by stubbornness but by a deep-rooted connection to his core values: compassion, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to saving Victor. These principles become his anchor, guiding him through the storm of doubt and opposition that threatens to overwhelm him. Drawing from this inner well of strength, Ethan embarks on a journey of reconnection. He reaches out to old friends whose support he had taken for granted, realizing that their faith and shared history can bolster his resolve. These reunions rekindle a sense of camaraderie and trust, reminding him that he is not alone in this battle. The bonds forged in the past provide emotional sustenance and practical assistance, reinvigorating Ethan's determination to see his mission through. Simultaneously, Ethan finds new allies, individuals who believe in his vision and bring fresh perspectives and resources. These newcomers offer not only technical expertise but also encouragement and hope, expanding the network of support around him. Their presence underscores the idea that progress often comes from collaboration and that even the most daunting challenges can be tackled through collective effort. With these alliances forming, Ethan's isolation begins to lift, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. At the heart of Ethan's struggle is the cure he has been tirelessly refining. His scientific work, once stalled by uncertainty and limited resources, now gains momentum. Each iteration brings him closer to a breakthrough, and with every experiment, his confidence grows. The refinement process is painstaking, requiring meticulous adjustments and the patience to endure repeated failures. Yet Ethan's commitment never wavers, instead, it deepens as he witnesses incremental improvements and glimpses the potential for success. The chapter captures the emotional evolution Ethan undergoes throughout this period. Self-doubt, which had once cast a shadow over his efforts, gradually recedes. He learns to silence the inner critic that questions his worth and capabilities, replacing it with a voice of quiet assurance. This internal transformation is as critical as the scientific progress he makes, for it strengthens his ability to face the external opposition that looms large. Opposition comes in many forms. Skeptics dismiss his work as overly ambitious or naive. Institutional barriers slow his access to necessary resources. Even those closest to him sometimes express concern or frustration, fearing that his relentless pursuit may lead to disappointment or burnout. Despite these obstacles, Ethan remains steadfast. He understands that adversity is an inevitable part of any meaningful endeavor and chooses to confront it with patience and resolve. The chapter thoughtfully explores the interplay between Ethan's inner growth and the external challenges he encounters. His journey is not portrayed as a simple path of triumph but as a nuanced process of resilience and adaptation. This complexity adds depth to his character, revealing how strength in adversity is forged through both vulnerability and determination. Ethan's renewed sense of purpose also influences how he approaches his relationship with Victor. The urgency to save his friend fuels his work, but it also deepens his empathy and understanding. He recognizes that the stakes extend beyond scientific success, they touch on themes of loyalty, hope, and the human capacity to endure suffering. This awareness adds emotional richness to his quest, underscoring the profound connections that motivate him. As Ethan moves closer to a potential breakthrough, the chapter builds tension and anticipation. The narrative sets the stage for a final, decisive attempt to save Victor, an endeavor that represents not only the culmination of Ethan's scientific efforts but also a personal test of his growth and resolve. The stakes are high, and the outcome uncertain, yet Ethan faces this moment with a newfound confidence rooted in experience and self-belief. In summary, the chapter portrays Ethan's journey as a testament to the power of perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. It highlights the importance of staying true to one's values, seeking support, and continually refining one's approach. Through his reconnections, new alliances, and scientific progress, Ethan emerges stronger and more focused, ready to confront the ultimate challenge with courage and determination. The story reminds readers that strength in adversity is rarely flashy or immediate, rather, it is a gradual process of growth, fueled by conviction and sustained by hope. Ethan's experience serves as an inspiring example of how setbacks can be transformed into stepping stones, and how the path to success often requires resilience, collaboration, and an unshakable belief in one's purpose. Ethan approached Victor with a mixture of determination and cautious optimism, knowing that this moment could change everything. For months, Ethan had been working tirelessly, pouring all his knowledge, skill, and hope into developing a cure that might finally deliver on a promise that had long seemed out of reach. The opportunity to present his findings directly to Victor was both daunting and exhilarating, a chance to prove not only the efficacy of his work but also his integrity and commitment. Victor, a man known for his unyielding pride and sharp skepticism, sat across from Ethan in the dimly lit office. The tension in the room was palpable, charged with the weight of unspoken expectations and the history between them. Victor's eyes flickered with a mix of doubt and desperate hope, reflecting the inner turmoil that had accompanied his long quest for a solution. He had heard many promises before, but none had delivered. Yet something about Ethan's unwavering confidence sparked a flicker of belief he hadn't allowed himself in a long time. Ethan wasted no time. He laid out the details of the cure with clarity and precision, explaining the science behind it, the rigorous testing it had undergone, and the results that pointed to genuine success. He spoke not as a salesman but as a scientist, grounded in facts and evidence. Each word was carefully chosen to convey transparency, to bridge the gap between skepticism and faith. As Ethan spoke, Victor listened intently but guardedly. His pride warred with his desperation, a constant tug of war between wanting to believe and fearing another disappointment. The memories of past failures haunted him, making it difficult to fully embrace the possibility of healing. Yet beneath that guarded exterior, the hope for a breakthrough burned fiercely. Then came the bold proposition. Ethan looked Victor directly in the eye and made an offer that raised the stakes higher than ever before. If the cure worked, if it delivered the results they both longed for, Victor would honor the agreement and pay the promised $1 million. It was a high-risk gamble, a test of faith and commitment on both sides. For Ethan, it was a chance to claim the recognition and resources he deserved. For Victor, it was a leap of trust, a bet on the future. The room grew still as Victor absorbed the weight of the proposition. The silence stretched, filled only by the faint hum of the city beyond the window. Victor's mind raced through the implications, the money, the promise, the potential vindication and the possibility of failure. He knew that accepting meant more than just a financial transaction, it meant acknowledging Ethan's work and the hope it represented. Victor's pride initially pushed him to reject the idea outright. He was a man who valued control and certainty, and this gamble felt like a vulnerability he wasn't accustomed to showing. But as he studied Ethan's face, he saw a sincerity that was hard to dismiss, a conviction that went beyond words. Ethan wasn't asking for blind trust, he was offering evidence, science, and a partnership grounded in truth. After a long moment, Victor finally spoke. His voice was steady but tinged with cautious resolve. He agreed to the terms, setting the stage for the decisive test that would determine the fate of the cure and the future of their agreement. It was a move that surprised even himself, a recognition that sometimes, hope required courage. With the agreement in place, both men understood the magnitude of what lay ahead. The pressure mounted, knowing that failure would mean more than just lost money or bruised egos, it would mean dashed hopes for healing and renewed skepticism. Success, on the other hand, promised transformation not only for Victor's situation but for the very landscape of possibility they inhabited. Ethan's resolve remained unshakable. He prepared meticulously for the next phase, aware that every detail mattered. The cure would be tested under the strictest scrutiny, with results monitored closely and transparently. For him, this was not just a professional milestone, it was a personal mission to prove that perseverance and belief could overcome doubt and adversity. Victor, too, found himself changed by the proposition. The act of agreeing to the terms forced him to confront his fears and redefine his understanding of trust. He realized that healing was not solely a matter of medicine but also of faith in those who dedicate themselves to finding solutions and in the possibility of change itself. As the chapter closed, the stage was perfectly set. The partnership forged by Ethan's bold proposition promised to challenge the limits of skepticism and pride, pushing both men toward a future shaped by hope and determination. The decisive test loomed ahead, carrying with it the potential to rewrite their story and redefine what was possible. Victor lay still in the sterile hospital room, surrounded by the steady hum of machines and the soft, rhythmic beeping that marked the passage of time. The treatment had begun hours earlier, an intense regimen designed to challenge the limits of his body and spirit. Every breath, every twitch of pain or relief, was a small step in a journey that was as much emotional as it was physical. The stakes felt immense not only for his survival but for the reckoning that awaited him once the immediate crisis passed. At first, the side effects of the treatment battered Victor's body. Waves of nausea, fatigue, and fever racked him, leaving his muscles weak and his mind foggy. These symptoms were merciless reminders of the vulnerability he had long tried to deny. A man who once commanded boardrooms and controlled vast fortunes now found himself utterly dependent on the skill and care of others. The disparity between his former life of power and this moment of fragility was stark and humbling. But beneath the physical suffering, a more profound battle unfolded. Victor wrestled with the memories of his past arrogance, the dismissive way he had treated those he deemed beneath him, the stubborn pride that refused to admit fault, and the blind confidence that ignored warnings. These reflections stirred unease within him, as if the treatment was not only attacking his illness but also peeling back layers of denial and ego. Ethan, the brilliant mind behind the experimental therapy, remained a constant presence during this ordeal. Despite Victor's previous skepticism and condescension, Ethan's unwavering dedication and quiet confidence offered a lifeline. Watching Ethan in action, his calm focus, his deep knowledge, and his genuine care began to shift something inside Victor. The arrogance that once blinded him now softened into a grudging respect, and eventually, a heartfelt gratitude. The tension in the room was palpable as each day brought new challenges. At times, it seemed as though the treatment might fail. Vital signs would dip dangerously low, and moments of despair would wash over the medical team and Victor's family. But just as hope began to waver, signs of recovery would emerge, strength returning to his limbs, clearer thoughts piercing the fog, and the gradual easing of pain. This oscillation between hope and despair created a suspense that was almost unbearable, underscoring the fragility of life and the resilience of the human spirit. Throughout this journey, Victor's inner transformation paralleled his physical healing. He confronted the parts of himself that had caused pain to others: his ruthlessness in business, his disregard for the contributions of those around him, and his refusal to accept help. These admissions were not easy, they required vulnerability that Victor was unaccustomed to. But the severity of his condition forced honesty, stripping away defenses and demanding self-awareness. One particularly pivotal moment came during a quiet afternoon when Victor, still weak but lucid, reached out to Ethan. His voice was faint but resolute as he acknowledged the brilliance and humanity that Ethan had shown. This acknowledgement was more than a mere apology, it was a bridge toward reconciliation, a recognition that healing involved not just the body but the relationships that had been strained or broken by Victor's past behavior. Ethan's response was equally profound. He accepted Victor's words with grace, understanding that this moment marked a turning point not only in Victor's health but in his character. Their connection deepened, shifting from one of patient and doctor to something more human and meaningful. The treatment had healed Victor's body, but it had also opened the door to forgiveness and renewal. As the days passed, the physical improvements became undeniable. Medical scans showed promising progress, and Victor's energy slowly returned. The transformation was evident not only to those caring for him but to Victor himself. He felt a newfound appreciation for life, a sense of humility and a commitment to live differently. The man who once measured success solely in terms of wealth and influence now understood the value of empathy, collaboration, and respect. The climax of this chapter was not marked by dramatic declarations but by quiet moments of insight. Victor's journey through pain and vulnerability culminated in a profound acceptance of his limitations and the strengths of those he had once dismissed. This moment of reckoning was a testament to the power of healing not only of the body but of the soul. In the aftermath, Victor began to take steps toward making amends in both his personal and professional life. He sought to repair relationships that had been damaged by his earlier arrogance and to support initiatives that reflected his changed perspective. The cure had saved his life, but the transformation of his character promised a legacy that could inspire others. The chapter closed on a note of cautious optimism. Victor's survival was no longer just about medical success but about the possibility of redemption and growth. His experience served as a powerful reminder that true healing requires courage not just to endure physical trials but to face one's own flaws and embrace change. Through the grueling process of treatment, Victor emerged not only restored in health but renewed in spirit. The journey had been arduous, filled with moments of fear and pain, but it had also opened a path toward hope and reconciliation. In embracing this transformation, Victor began to redefine what it meant to be strong not through dominance or pride, but through humility, gratitude, and connection. Victor's commitment to his promise marks a turning point that forever alters the course of Ethan's life. From the moment Victor follows through, a ripple effect begins, one that transforms not only Ethan's circumstances but also his outlook on the future. The resources and opportunities Victor provides serve as a foundation on which Ethan can rebuild and reimagine his life, moving beyond the struggles and limitations he once faced. This act of integrity and support is more than a simple gesture, it becomes the catalyst for Ethan's ongoing journey of growth, empowerment, and purpose. With the newfound support, Ethan gains access to tools and opportunities that had previously seemed out of reach. Whether through education, mentorship, financial stability, or connections, these resources empower him to realize his potential. The shift is palpable. Where once he was burdened by uncertainty and hardship, he now stands with a clearer vision and a renewed sense of confidence. This change is not superficial or fleeting, it is deeply rooted in the acknowledgement that his efforts and dreams are worthy of investment and belief. Ethan's transformation is visible not only in his personal growth but also in his expanding impact on others. Recognizing the significance of the support he has received, he channels his energy into helping those facing challenges similar to his own. His work becomes a bridge connecting people to opportunities, fostering community, and nurturing hope. This outward focus reinforces the cycle of empowerment, showing that individual success can be multiplied through generosity and compassion. Ethan's journey exemplifies how one life rewritten can inspire countless others. Victor's character also undergoes significant evolution throughout this process. Once perhaps distant or rigid, he embraces humility and gratitude, acknowledging the role that kindness and trust play in creating meaningful change. His promise to Ethan was more than a contractual obligation, it was an act of faith in another person's potential. This realization softens Victor's perspective and enriches his understanding of leadership and responsibility. No longer bound by pride or detached authority, Victor becomes a figure who recognizes the value of supporting others and celebrating their successes. The relationship between Victor and Ethan shifts accordingly. Their interactions, once marked by imbalance or skepticism, grow into a partnership grounded in mutual respect and shared goals. This evolution highlights the power of human connection and the importance of honoring commitments not as mere formalities, but as acts that carry deep significance. The trust between them strengthens over time, creating a foundation that supports continued collaboration and growth. Perseverance emerges as a central theme throughout this chapter. Ethan's path was never easy, but his steadfast dedication to overcoming obstacles and pursuing his vision ultimately leads to transformation. His story affirms that resilience, coupled with opportunity, can rewrite futures. It underscores the idea that setbacks are not definitive endings but challenges to be met with courage and resolve. Ethan's progress embodies the truth that persistence in the face of adversity can unlock doors that once seemed permanently closed. Respect is equally vital in this narrative. The mutual regard between Victor and Ethan serves as a model for how relationships grounded in respect can foster empowerment and positive change. Victor's willingness to trust Ethan and honor his promise breaks down barriers of doubt and distance. Meanwhile, Ethan's respectful acceptance of the help offered demonstrates humility and gratitude. This exchange creates a dynamic where both individuals grow, learn, and benefit. The story illustrates how respect, when sincerely practiced, can transform interactions and build lasting bonds. Underlying these themes is the powerful message of believing in oneself. Ethan's journey is a testament to the strength that comes from internal conviction paired with external support. His transformation is not solely the result of the resources he gains but also of his willingness to trust his own abilities and potential. This belief fuels his drive and shapes his choices. It is the core of his success and the reason his future can be rewritten. The narrative celebrates this inner strength, encouraging readers to recognize and cultivate their own capacity for self-belief. The chapter's conclusion is imbued with hope and a forward-looking perspective. While acknowledging the challenges that remain, it focuses on the possibilities that arise when perseverance, respect, and self-belief align. Ethan stands as a symbol of what can be achieved when one is supported and empowered to take control of their destiny. Victor's journey reinforces the idea that humility and generosity enrich not only those who receive but also those who give. Together, their stories weave a narrative that honors the transformative power of human connection and the impact of keeping one's word. The future, once uncertain or constrained, is now open, a blank slate where new dreams can take shape. This ending resonates with the understanding that while past hardships may have defined previous chapters, they do not dictate what comes next. Instead, through commitment, support, and faith in oneself, a future can indeed be rewritten. Ultimately, the chapter highlights the importance of integrity and the ripple effect that one person's promise can have. Victor's decision to honor his word changes lives far beyond Ethan's own, creating a legacy of empowerment and hope. The story invites reflection on how actions rooted in perseverance, respect, and belief can foster meaningful, lasting change, reminding readers that the power to rewrite the future lies within reach when people choose to act with compassion and conviction.